Hi guys, welcome to the video, welcome to Edinburgh in Scotland, and welcome to this beauty here. This is the Embraer E190 EJet. It's by X-Crafts and we're in X-Plane 12. And this is going to be the subject of today's video. And what we're going to have a look at is we're going to have a look at the outside, inside, take it for a flight and see what we think. Now this has recently been updated and they've added a lot in terms of the functionality regarding the VNav. And what I will say is the VNav capabilities of this aircraft are absolutely brilliant. It's taken me a little bit getting used to getting out of Airbus and out of Boeing mode to go into something like this. It's more complex than say a CRJ. It's actually a bit more complex than the others in terms of what it's capable of doing, but strangely it's easier to operate once you understand what's going on. And what I would say is that X-Crafts do an absolutely phenomenal set of videos in relation to this add-on. Absolutely brilliant. There's also documentation you can find on the internet, but as I say, this is something that for me has really benefited from the input of those videos, particularly with regards to the VNav. The VNav system in this is absolutely awesome. As they say, it's one rotary knob and a couple of buttons, and that's pretty much your whole flight. You can get yourself in a pickle, but as I say, the videos make it really easy to figure it all out. But as I say, we'll have a look at the outside, the inside, take it for a flight, see what we think. Now, in terms of taking it for a flight, what we are going to do is we're going to maximise the use of the automation just to see how good it is, to test it, to see whether it does what it should be doing and what they say it does. But before we go any further, we need to have a quick look at a couple of things, such as this is their webpage. Interesting thing, I've only just seen this, MSFS. So they've been working on the X-Plane version for 10 years, as you'll see as it goes through the video. But they've started bringing it over to MSFS. There's also free copies of the earlier versions, so they're not as advanced and not as technical. These are X-Plane only, but they are bringing it to MSFS through Flight Sim Studios. So the Embraer EJets that you see in Microsoft Flight Simulator, this is where they've come from. But obviously you've got the X-Plane setup, so they've got the free, the ERJ, which is the skinny pencil type ones like that one that's just gone through, and then the EJets. And if you click on the EJets, it'll tell you all about them. There's 4 versions of it. If I pop over to the shop, you can see there's the 170, 175, 190, 195, or you can have a cluster. I have to say that I think the prices are on the steep side by what's available in Microsoft Flight Simulator. But having said that, it doesn't take away necessarily from the idea of you get what you pay for. And yeah, I'll be honest from the outset, it's on the steep side, but this is the way to buy them if you're going to buy them. But the problem is that it is still a lot of money, so $135. But then what I would say as well is that's well within the norms for X-Plane, so it's not really a massive surprise. But one thing I'll highlight is the 170 and the 190 are capable of steep approaches. I don't believe the 175 and the 195 are. So yeah, if you're looking at going into places like London City, you'd be wanting to use either the 170 or the 190. But yeah, so as I say, there's a quick bit on the on their website. I'll drop a link to it in the description so you can have a look at that. And then what we're going to have a look at is our routing. So our routing, we're going to go from Edinburgh, we're going to go down to London City. We're going down as East Flight, so that Eastern Airways, although we've got a KLM livery on, and we're going down as East Flight, and this is our routing, which is all going to be jolly good fun. So let me pop that to one side, and now we can have a quick look at the beast. It's a regional jet, and I've got a certain amount of affinity with this aircraft because this is in a KLM City Hopper. A good friend of mine was a captain with KLM City Hopper. He did this Fokker 70s and 100s as jets, and then he moved on to the ERJs, and he's now on to a different airline with Boeing 737-800s, not the Maxes, just the 800s. And he said it was a massive generational leap backwards in terms of sort of the environment. So you know, it's basically, this is technologically more advanced than say a 737 in terms of the way it's laid out, the whole cockpit, the dark cockpit principle. And so, you know, he was very much surprised when he went to a Boeing to see how far back they were in some respects. So yeah, as I say, Embraer, I've got a lot of time for Embraer, but okay, so let's have a look around. This is the 190, so this is the longer version, and very nice. The external modelling is very, very nice, and you can see we've got things like the intake blanks, the cones, etc. that we can select. We've got the pitot tube covers. All of it is on as we see, and then we're going to scoot round. Ooh, hang on. It's a while since I've been in X-Plane. I'd forgotten it's quite so aggressive. But you can see we've got all the externals out and available at the moment, so we'll have a really close look in a moment, see what we think. Let's start where I normally start, right at the nose. Here's the cabin door. The cabin doors, obviously open them, but you don't get any extra stuff, so there's no stairs or anything like that, which is a bit of a shame, really. I don't know if there's any plugins that can address that, but let's have a look at the modelling as a whole. So overall, it's a very nice, very sleek bird, and it's Flybe used to have them as well. They had the 175s and 195s, and when I did my licenses, I was trying to get in with Flybe. It never happened, unfortunately, for a multitude of reasons. But I always thought it would be a cracking aircraft to fly, and in the sim world, it's really, really nice. But as we zoom in, let's have a look at what we've got in terms of the detail and the level of detail that we've got. Little bit of fuzziness to the livery, nothing too great. Very good clarity in terms of the windows, the doorway, door step, door handle. I don't know what the inlet panel there is for. Looking around the cockpit, very nice. We'll go down and have a look at. So having a look at the gear, I tend to do it purely out the fact it shows you the level of modelling that you've got in terms of the sim, and I have to say it's really good. The 3D modelling here is absolutely sublime, even down to the chocks. The chocks are cracking, but when you look at it, you can see that there's a very high level of 3D modelling and ability to it. A little bit of straight lining on the nose gear doors, but they are textured inside. The stays, the springs, the actuator arms, all very, very nicely done. The 3D modelling is to a very high standard, as is the texturing, and the PBR with the shiny oleo, slightly mattish sort of satin tyres, just nicely done. Let's see if we can just scoot around a little bit without killing ourselves. Yeah, very, very nicely done. A lot of effort and detail has gone into this. Textures on the hubs, very nicely done. And again, you can see when we get to things like the aerials, etc., all very nicely modelled, the 3D appendages. Text is nice and clear, very close up. Yeah, overall, very, very nicely done. The temperature probe's maybe not the greatest where it joins into the fuselage, but yeah, very nice. Very, very nice modelling and shaping. And if we have a look around the cockpit, a little bit of straight lining, but the PBR textures are doing a wonderful job here between these two sides. A little bit of a white line there where things aren't quite lined up. Looking into the cockpit, you can see it looks very good from the outside. Overall, very, very good. Really lovely 3D windscreen wipers, etc. All told, done to a very, very nice standard. Very nice standard. Ignore the shadows, that's an X-Plane thing. And again, coming around, you can see very nicely modelled. Go and have a look at the in the undercarriage. In the baggage bay. Very nicely done. Nice texturing, really nice 3D modelling. Absolutely love the fact that this is kind of a matte, dirty look, and this is a high gloss finish. Very, very good indeed. Again, leading edges, very high gloss metal, very nice. Lights, intake blanks, lovely. And just the overall 3D modelling is to a very high standard. I would say that It's slightly behind Microsoft Flight Simulator now in terms of the 3D modelling and the tools that are available, but it's very nicely done. You know, things like where the wings and engines join and the grills, very nicely done indeed. And the 3D strakes on the engine is very nice. A little bit of straight lining. Textures overall are very good. Use of PBR is very good. I have to say, I think it's very nicely done. Lovely curves to the wingtips. Flap tracks very nicely done towards the rear baggage hold. Can we sneak in? Yeah. All very nicely modelled. Very well done. Linkages for the baggage holds. It's all the 3D modelling's done to a really nice standard. And the external artwork, again, you can go really far in, and it's look at this, look how far in we've gone, and it's really legible, really nicely done. I have to say, in terms of the 3D modelling, they've done really well. The PBR texturing really well. The only single pickup I've got is the actual livery. When you go in close with that, and the sort of, it just loses a bit of the crispness, but overall that's really, really good. Static wicks all present and correct. I mean, I don't know a massive amount about the aircraft, to be honest. I was hoping to try and get somewhere near it with Flybe, but it never happened because of me rather than Flybe, but there we go. And in around the engine. Look at that. That is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. That 3D modelling, I mean, that must have taken ages. Having said that, it's the culmination of 10 years work, and it's still ongoing. They're still improving it, but underside with the pylon and the flap tracks, and lovely, 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 lovely. Yeah, yeah, can't fault it really. I think it's absolutely glorious. So let's have a look inside, see what we think inside. So welcome to the cockpit, guys. What we'll do is we'll have a look around at the textures, the modelling, etc. Then we'll start her up. We're just going to start her up however we fancy. We're not going to go through all the checklists. We'll take her out and we see what we think in terms of flying. What we'll do is we'll have a look at the whole interior and see what we think. So in terms of in the cockpit, the 3D modelling is done to a very nice standard, as is most of the texturing. I say most of the texturing a highlight point, but on the combing here you can see that it's nice and worn. Obviously it's one of those things where the pilots, just whilst they're resting, put their hands up there and just rest their hands. But as you can see, it's done really, really nicely. Very well modelled. The 3D modelling is lovely, I have to say. And likewise, one of the joys is being able to zoom in to stuff really closely compared to days of old, and it's all perfectly legible. Very, very nice indeed. Overall, the 3D modelling is to a high standard. What I'll do is if I come over here and drop down a bit, you can see what I mean by that. The attention to detail is also excellent. So when you come down here, you can see the checklists, quick reference handbook and normal procedures down there. Clearly legible. There's no reason why they had to put that there. We wouldn't have known otherwise, generally speaking. Wear and tear showing on various surfaces, the glare and reflections on the instruments, and then, as I say, you can see the depth in terms of the 3D modelling. Very nicely done. Buttons that stand proud rather than just sitting flush. Very nice. And as I say, not everything in this aircraft is necessarily clickable or actionable. So you can see the flight control mode. But what they've put in is pretty decent. The only things that really, for me, caused a little bit of a sort of shame was a couple of things in the MAG, one of which is the ability to do holds automatically. Now, obviously, the serious simmers would be able to do a hand-flown hold. But for those of us who aren't up to speed with that and haven't done one for a while, it's nice to have a button to press where you can just go, I want to hold here, and unfortunately it doesn't have that at the moment, so it doesn't have holds. at the moment. Unless, of course, I've made a mistake, but I can't find anything about holes, which is a shame. But the FMS is pretty much to a standard that's a good standard. One of the things I'll highlight is one of the textures here, which I really don't like. Let's open the window with its nice handle that's all shiny and copper and brass. And then look at this. This is not nice. This is not nice at all. Surprised at that. It lets the cockpit down a little bit. Nice noises, nice sounds. At this point we'll have a trundle over here. Nice animation for stuff as well. Have a look over this side, although it's largely going to be the same, isn't it? Nice texturing on the seats and 3D modelling of things like the harness and the buckle for the harness. I mean, overall it's just a very nice environment. Very, very nice. It's clean, it's modern. There's only a few bits, you know, where you look under there's an old aircraft and you'll see wires all over the place. But very nicely done. Looking at the overhead, it's very sleek and modern. It's very sort of ergonomic, well thought out, well laid out, completely unlike a lot of older aircraft. So 737s, 727s, MD-80s, for example. You know, we're on quite a significant path in terms of ergonomics, but very nicely done. Again, there's elements that aren't fire extinguishers, for example. You can operate the handles. I'm not going to, because otherwise the flight is very short. But you'll notice with a lot of the controls there's a lot of automation. There's a huge amount of automation in this aircraft, which is to be expected given the generation that we're in. But it does leave it with a nice clean overhead, which is absolutely great. I also noticed that by default it loads in with the nav light on, so as soon as you turn power onto the aircraft the nav lights go on. So I'm not sure if that would be a standard practice anywhere. One of the things I find that makes it a challenge to fly is just the visuals in terms of the mode control panel, as you call it in a Boeing. But the MCP takes a little bit of getting used to. Flight path angles, another thing that's in this aircraft that's quite interesting. It's fun. VNav, as I say, is quite epic in this thing, and we'll have a look at VNav. And this switch down here, FMS speed, is critical to that. But yeah, really nicely done overall. So let's have a look, see if we can have a look in the cabin. Is it going to, what we've got behind the pilots? All the gear pins, etc. Nice sounds through into the cabin. There is a button to accelerate this, but I can't remember what it is. But very nicely done. All the catering. Don't know if you can. Where are we? Is it going to let us out? Oh, it is. Nice animation, lovely sound. Close that up. Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And then the seats look great. Interior's nicely modelled. Obviously it's narrow body in terms of fuselage, so we've got a 2 and a 1 on the sides, but the texturing's lovely. The 3D modelling is lovely. The whole thing's very nice. Little squaring off there. Blinds aren't adjustable, unfortunately. But having said that, I'm one of those who never really comes down here other than to do a video about the inside of it. I don't know if this will light up actually when we start up, but the whole thing's done to a really, really nice standard, I have to say. There's only a couple of glitches or a couple of things I have an issue with, one of which is this the inside of this panel when the doors open, sorry, when the windows open, and yeah, overall I think I'm pretty happy with it. It's very nice. But as I say, this is what Flight Sim Studio are bringing into Microsoft Flight Simulator. They're bringing this across as the EJet. So, you know, it'd be nice to have a look at that in a moment as well. I'll probably have a look at that in another video. and see what they've managed to bring over, what enhancements they might have made. But overall, it's very nice. So let's get her started. So what we can do is come over here. We are going to put the GPU on. We're then going to come into the weight and balance, and I've got a flight loaded up in SimBrief. Let me just get the details up and we'll look at where we're going. So as I say, we're going from Aberdeen, not Aberdeen, why am I going on? We're going from Edinburgh all the way down to London City. The reason I've chosen them is because they have height constraints and speed constraints that, if in particular, if we look at, so let's get Navigraph over. In particular, if we look at Edinburgh, not Edinburgh, why am I going on about Edinburgh? If we look at London City coming in on the LISTO arrival, you can see we've got height restriction, speed restriction, height and speed restriction, and again, and then if we go into the actual section down here, we come all the way down. It's got all sorts of restrictions for this aircraft to try and cope with. And what we'll do is we'll see how it copes with that, just as much as we'll see how I cope with it. And then in the departure, we've got the same sort of thing. So I've deliberately chosen a departure and a landing where there's going to be work for the system to do. We're not simply going to climb up to our maximum altitude. And this thing can go pretty high. In this route, I think we're looking at flight level 390, which for a relatively short route is a case of going up, spend 20 minutes at the top and come down. But yeah, so this is our route. Let's just get rid of that. And I only just figured out that you can put cities on the Navigraph app. Brilliant, absolutely love it. But as you can see, we're departing out to the west and then going all the way south. And then we're doing our arrival all the way around into London City. So we're going around to the east of it and then coming in for landing on 09. So it should be an interesting flight. We'll see what we get out of that. So let me just pop that to one side. I will edit the flight so that you don't have to sit through the whole hour and a half or whatever it's going to take us. But this, as I say, this is our routing and this is where we're going to go. So let's get this thing going then. And what we'll do is we'll have a quick start up and then take her into the skies to investigate further. So let's come over here. Everything's removed in terms of ground services, and then we're just going to put the GPU on. It'll rumble away in the... Right, I've just requested the company load sheet, so this is where we are in terms of our load sheet. View the load sheet, see what we've got. All looks good. Click load the plane. Now the EFB, as I say, it's not the most advanced EFB, but it is perfectly functional, and we've got what we need to have there. Takeoff performance, we'll work that out in a moment, but wait, in fact, no, we might as well do it now. So let me just have a look at what we've got in terms of our weather. In fact, I'm not running... we're not running real world weather, are we? So... Oh, look, got some aircraft carriers off there. So let's come down here and see what we've got in terms of the airport. EGPH details. Have we got any weather? View visibility, temperature, dew point 1013. I do like the way that this tablet actually functions in terms of 013, so it's obviously ICAO standards. You can just type it in and then press return, and it's all good. Transition altitude 6,000. Where have we got? Wind calm. Oh, that's good. So we'll put. That's nice. And what's the temperature? It's going to be 15, isn't it? Because it's obviously ICAO standard that the sim's given me. And then we've got our weight. We'll just double check with what we got. 4667. 4667 compute. And this will bring up our page. And what we'll do is when we get started with the FMS, we'll send it over to the FMS. So that's all nice. Come on. Right. So that's the EFB done. It's that simple, nice and quick. It's not flashy, but it's very, very punctual and very, very effective. Now we need to get ourselves some aircraft work, and so looking at the overhead panel, as I say, it's quite straightforward. It's just a case of it's like any plane. If you're used to flying an Airbus, so all of a sudden you're presented with a different panel, so it just takes a little bit of exploration to find it. IDGs, integrated drive generators, don't touch those. We've got the power down here. The batteries are down here, so one of them is on and the other one we turn to auto. Fans start to come alive, start to hear some whirring. We will, just as I think about it, make sure that the gear and flaps are in the appropriate position. So the gear is showing down, flaps are corresponding to what we had outside, speed brake is away. And then coming back up here, we will put the GPU on, and in use comes up. And that means we've now got GPU power, so we're not going to drain the battery doing what we're doing. I will say the lighting in here is fantastic at night. If I remember, we'll have a look at that later. As I say, I'm not going to follow any SOPs because I never flew one of these in the real world, but we'll put the emergency to armed. Nav lights are on. We can leave the rest of it for the moment. APU's up here. Took me a little bit of finding, but you can have an emergency stop on the APU. We won't bother because otherwise we won't get going. Hydraulics are over here. There's so much automation in this, guys. It's just absolutely fantastic. Again, environmental control and air conditioning's over here. It's hugely automated, this thing. As I say, there's a few little things in terms of, because of how complex it is, its capacity and its capabilities are well above some of the aircraft that I've previously flown, but can mess around with the displays. Duplicate, swap them over, all good stuff. The displays, first version, they won't pop out. They are now pop out. You can pop them out and then obviously move them around to your heart's content. This one I like particularly. I do like this because, for example, if I'm, so let's get rid of that. If I'm messing around with the MAG and I come over here, I can transfer information straight across. So that's the sort of thing that I like it for. But the MAG really nice. It just takes a little bit finding out to get around. It reminds me of the Dash 8 Q400 in terms of its presentation. I don't know who makes the proper one, whether it's Collins or whoever. So it's taken a little bit of learning to get used to that. But we will, whilst we're here, just stick ourselves 2000. We're not online. We're not doing anything. We'll just stick ourselves that and TARA, and this is completely against how you would do it in the real world, I'd guess. But yeah, so you've got the radio panel. We will go into route as our first page. It comes up with your data page. In fact, we might as well go through this properly and just set it all up. So it comes up with your data page. As I say, the actual route is not linked to SimBrief that I can work out. But you can see I've got it set up with the Navigraph AirRack, which runs out 24th of the 10th. Click on route, and I'm still not 100% with this in terms of using it, but we will stick our route in. So it's going to EGLC, drop that in there, and when we activate, it then drops it into there as well. I believe you can potentially load in flight plans, etc. I don't know how you do that at the minute. Do we get a flight plan list? No flight plans available, so potentially not. So back to route, and the flight number is East Flight, so that's EZE 42 Charlie, which is a completely fictitious flight that I've made up, but that doesn't really make much difference to what we're doing. Into departure, and basically once you know where you are, it's pretty straightforward. We're going off runway 24, so we're going off 24, and we're doing the Grice Charlie or the Gossamer. Let me have a look over Gossamer 1 Alpha. No, Gossamer 1 Charlie, which is, click that, apply, jobs are good, and comes up with the first page of your route. So let me just get my route up on the other screen so I can pop some details in. It's a really straightforward aircraft, to be honest. There's nothing too scary about it. I actually want the PDF version of it. There we go. So let's get the PDF version up, and we're going to start putting some details in. So in terms of the route, let's just zoom in a little bit more for my eyeballs to work properly. Where's the route gone? Gone too far for the route. There it is. GOSAM 1 Charlie, Papa 600, so Papa 600. It's not a particularly long or arduous route. It's not like the 737, so I can't just put the airways and it links them automatically. I have to do all of it. FENIK, F-E-N-I-K. And I'll be honest, the keyboard and the whole thing's very nice and slick to use. It's nice to use it where you're not struggling. It's clean and slick. It works very nicely. Lima 612, Lima 612, and that goes to ELBUS. oh no, getting too excited. ELBUS. ELBUS, Uniform Lima 612, Uniform Lima 612, so that's Upper Lima 612 is next. We then go to LISTO, which is where we then start our arrival. Well, our standard arrival, I should say. T-O. Bosh. We can activate that. All turns green. All very, very good. Now, in terms of, let me see. If I click on there, no. If I go to, no, I'll do it in a moment. We'll go to the legs on the flight plan in a moment. So over here, we're just going to program in our arrival. We know what it is. It's going to be an arrival to 09 on the ILS, and it's the Odal 1 Juliet. So it's the jet arrival there, and then the star is going to be the LISTO 1 Charlie. Apply. And that's all our route planning done. Activate, all gone green, happy days. Next we're going to skip across to Perf Init. There's 3 pages on Perf Init, so don't forget to fill all 3 in, otherwise you can't do your VNav. So the alternate fuel in our flight plan is a number that I haven't got my eyeballs to work out yet. Where's my fuel plan? There it is. 1016. 1016. Don't get confused by these numbers. These are not takeoff and landing fuel weights. These are how much the aircraft this is how much you are telling as the aircraft that you are going to use taxiing out and taxiing back in after landing. So ignore that generally, or I do anyway. But next page, cruise altitude. We can go nice and high with this one today. 390 in flight level. Flight level worlds. The cruise winds. It may not have any cruise winds for us, so we'll leave that. ISA deviation, we've got no ISA deviation, and this is where we need to maybe pop this out. Like this, bring it over here, zoom in a little bit, and we can come here and weight and balance. Takeoff C of G 22.0, 22.0. This is one of those things that I wish every aircraft had the opportunity to pop out the panels, because we're working on a 2D TV screen for all intents purposes. The aircraft cockpit is 3D, so you can do things so much more easily in an actual real world environment. So pop outs for me are a huge bonus. Zero fuel weight 35330. 35330. As I say, this is not intended to be a tutorial. Next page, I think you can resize these as well. Yeah, just with the scroll wheel. So for my dimwit eyes, look at that. I think you can do it down here as well. It looks like there's a little arrow there. Don't know. This is the performance initialization. This is the important information because this is what your VNav is going to use. You can either use the default ones, or if you click or, it will let you change them. So you could change it to econ, for example, or you could just manually change it. I'm going to leave it as default because the world is a scary place. Likewise, you can then go to your takeoff data set, and it will give you the options for what you're doing in terms of a takeoff. So we're going to stick with the takeoff 2 profile. The reference, the aircon's going to be on, so we'll just swap that to on. ATTCS is going to be on, so I believe that's the automatic throttle system. Anti-icing will have off. We're not going to flex, and otherwise we'd set in a flex temperature. Enter what we've put in, FMS takeoff, and this is our takeoff initialization. So we haven't got a slope that we're going to worry about. We're not going to get too excited about any of that today, but obviously if you wanted to pop the details in, you could. Now this is the point where we start to get excited about this now, where we can send it to the FMS. We will send that to the FMS so that we can do our full perf in it, and to data set, sorry. Yeah, we've done that. FMS takeoff. Bring ourselves to the takeoff initialization page. We've started on that, so next page. And then we're going to do a flaps 2 takeoff. CFG we've already put in. We're not doing flex. And takeoff 2, we could change it here as well. And I can't remember which page it is. Is it climb? Yes, transition altitude 6,000. So we've got that set. So that's absolutely fine. Perf in it. Next. Data set. FMS takeoff. And as I'm clicking this, it's just slowly working its way down, isn't it? Next, done all that, take off, and then what happens with this is when I send it, it doesn't just pre-populate this, it sends it as a message. So you go to your data link, you'll see this is now green, click on that, turns blue, speeds are loaded in, and then if I go back to, let's just start with route, departure, takeoff, you can see we've got all the figures here. Departure limits, we've got a speed limit that we can set up. So this is, you'll often hear to it in terms of profile for the departure profile. So you can have various things. This is really well detailed in the video that X-Crafts do. So I'm not going to go over this. I'll point you to their video, which is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, that's really nicely done. But you've got landing if you wanted to go to the landing page, which we obviously don't want to do now. TRS, by the way, we haven't gone through this. This is the thrust rating selector. So this is where you could put D rates and climb settings in. Again, I'm not going to mess around with that. I'm just going to leave it as is. So we've got ours. Next page. Takeoff. Comes up with this, and this is what we've just populated here. So this is all good. This is our takeoff data. As a result of that, I'm quite happy with that for the moment. I'm going to leave this out because it's a really nice handy setup here. Now in terms of setting your speeds here, you'll see it has transferred them over. It's transferred them over at the moment, but it's because the FMS is in magenta. So there's a certain amount of automation going on here already, as you can see. What you can also see is because we've got all the information in, it's now populated our vertical profile here. If you haven't got the vertical profile, you can't use VNav, so that's your takeaway from there. Let's have a quick look at the screens now. We've got some juice going to them. This is absolutely fantastic, very reminiscent of the CRJ as well. I like this layout a lot with the compass rose and your course deviation bar beneath your AI, because you've literally got everything in one package here that you would need if you're going to have a bit of a hairy day. But this is really nice and very well laid out, so thank you very much, Embraer. The only thing I have with it is because my eyes are a bit dicky, I can't really read much on that, which is why I do that. And I then just go and enhance it maybe a little bit and bring it to the point. So you'll find that certain things like that I'll probably use a lot. You know, we're playing on a TV, not real life, so this is really quite a cool page. This is basically, so you've got your core systems, your engines, etc. over in this page. There's no sort of pressy buttons around this. We'll go through a couple of bits as we start the aircraft, etc. But this down here is a really good one. So this is your ND for your navigation with your map. It's also your plan view for your working through it, and you'll see on it there's these little markers here that are in blue. These are just the range when it's a pop out, so they don't, oh no, you can do it there, it's just such a small indicator that, so you can change the plan range. You see I've clicked on just the wrong spot, caught it on the wrong spot, and that's it, big enough for it to go, oh, I'll jump out now. So you see what I mean, they're a little bit fiddly here. I'll leave it down at 5 miles for that. Do we go through? Oh, let's go, just make sure we've got no discontinuities in our flight plan, looking at that. Go away. But map, top down view, this is just fantastic. I do like this. Oh god, that's zoomed out, so the zoom affects both at the same time. Oof. Bring it all the way back down, bring it down to 5 for the departure. So we'll pop it out because, and we'll pop this one out as well, because I need to stop the screen moving around like a madman and just demonstrate another feature which I think is really cool and really useful. So you're faffing around with your aircraft, you realise you need to change altitude. You can just hover over these and you can change the altitude. It's probably not going to do anything now because, oh yeah, there we go, look, I can manually change the altitude. So whilst we're here, I might as well stick it all the way up to our cruise altitude, and I'll explain why when we get there, but we're going to stick up to cruise altitude because we can. You know, we're rebellious like that. But it all will become apparent when we talk about the VNav setup in this aircraft, but God, it takes a while, doesn't it? I think it's quicker if you do it on the actual upfront controls, the MCP mode control panel. But we're going to 390, which is an awfully long way up. Awfully long way up. So what we'll do is we will just pop it there. And that's one of the things that I like in terms of the ability to do things like that. So the fact that they've brought this in, really, really nice. Very nice indeed. And then you've also got radio nav stuff you can do that down here as well. So really nice when you get a well thought out, well set up pop-up. But yeah, so, and again, likewise you can change the scale here, so really well thought out. And then you've got system status, so this is all your systems that aren't on that center panel. Really, really well done. There's a couple of things on it that aren't activated, so you can see these slightly grayer, so the ones that are more white are available to you, the ones that are grayer aren't. So we haven't got engine maintenance or system configuration. I would suggest that they're probably coming in sometime, but this is an incredibly small team in terms of developers. So they haven't got the resources that some of the bigger developers have, but what they've got in here is really good at the minute, to be honest. But flight controls, click, and then you can see if you're moving your flight controls, etc. So it's all the good stuff that we've come to be used to. Fuel, hydraulics, electrical's probably going to be the one that's stand out, obvious, and it's that standard thing where as soon as you switch something it all changes and all the dynamics, and you'll notice it hasn't got the APU on here, and the APU appears when you fire it up. It comes up as a new thing as soon as you start it, and when you close it disappears. So it's quite a clever system. So yeah, let's just pop that to one side, reset our view. And so it hasn't got 100% system availability. As I say, you can't do holds that I'm aware of, and there's a couple of other bits. I don't think you can do offset track or holds or any of that yet. If you know otherwise, please drop it in the description. But to the best of my knowledge, that's one of the few limitations. And as I say, not everything's clickable. So in terms of online flying, it can obviously be used online, but you just need to be mindful that if someone asks you to do a hold, you're going to have to figure out how to do it using the old grey matter. But there we go. I will mention at this point again the mode control panel. because you can do the scrolling on the screens, it helps out because it's very easy in a sim to start to get things in the, you start scrolling this and the aircraft moves because the aircraft's dynamic, and then you scroll it. It's, yeah, so a couple of these that I'll go through. These are obviously your equivalent to the Boeing EFIS panel, so this is what you're displaying, whether you're displaying HSI, etc., what modes you're in. So this is all pretty self-explanatory. Minimums, again, self-explanatory. Flight director, you have to have the flight directors on for, I think they're ganged to both sides at the same time. So let's just pop that on while we're here. So roll flight path annunciator, yeah. FPA, sorry, is flight path angle. I keep saying flight path annunciator, it's not, it's flight path angle. So you can manually adjust the flight path that you want your aircraft to follow, which is an absolutely fab feature. So if you want to descend early, you can use flight path angle to descend earlier, and it will then intercept your descent point. Or you can set it up so that you want to descend more shallow. It's part of the auto flight setup. It's really good. Very, very well done. But we've got the usual stuff. So we've got lateral navigation over on the left with nav heading, approach, bank angle, limits, and then we've got the spinny bits. Your autopilot on and your yaw damper, etc., and then auto throttle and your lateral modes over here. Sorry, vertical modes over here. So VNav, flight level change, altitude, and flight path angle. Yeah, we got there in the end. Vertical speed button, and then this is duplicated from the other side. And the thing to be aware of is this little switch under here, which is for FMS and manual. Basically, if it's in a magenta, it's being controlled by the computer. If it's in green, it's being controlled by you. And that's really the best way to describe that. So what we'll do is we'll get us started. As I say, it's not a tutorial per se, so I'm not going to follow the checklists directly, but it's starting this thing isn't rocket science, to be fair. So I think we're pretty good to go. Let's just get us started up. So we're going to come up here and we're going to make sure that's on, that's on. All of this is absolutely fine. We need the APU on, which is here. So once to the right, and if I just come down here, get that open and then pop back up. When this has gone yellow, so it's got the temperature at the moment, which obviously matches outside air temperature. But once it's gone yellow, you're good to start. It takes 2 or 3 seconds, it's not long. Just pull it across a couple of seconds and then you'll see it start to spool up. And if we pop outside, you can hear the sounds as it starts up. I've got them on quiet, so I'll just boost them up a little bit so you can hear them. Get rid of that. So we can hear them as they go up, but the APU, nice noises. Very nice sounds. Let's just jump back in the cockpit. So we've got the APU up and running, and you see now, I mentioned before, the APU's appeared here as if by magic, and as a result of that we can get rid of our external power. So into the overhead. I said into the overhead. Into the overhead, and then we'll take the ground power off. It's available, but we don't want it, so we're going to come down here, just turn it off, and then we're going to go to our takeoff, make sure we've got all our speeds in, which we have, still there from earlier. And now what we can do is look at pushing back and starting the engine. So coming over here, just going to flick the, I can't see it from this angle, just going to flick the red beacon on, and then we use red, better pushback. If I can manage to get this thing to work. Me and this thing don't get on. So let's just go down there. And I might skip through a few bits because at the end of the day the video is not about better pushback, but we'll click it there, press return.
Round to cockpit. Plan acknowledge, call me through the menu when you're ready.
I think I'm largely ready to go. So
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
whilst I'm here, we'll do a couple of bits of housekeeping. That can go to RTO. That goes to, this one goes to on. These two go to on to start with. That's all good. Panel looks all good to me. I've probably missed something out. Just pop the flight directors on, because the VNav won't work without the flight directors. And you see it's got the enunciations, roll, flight path angle, so as soon as we engage autopilot, that's the automatic mode it's going to go into. But you'll see down here we've got our V speeds. At the moment they're not selected.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
So we'll flip it over to the setting for VNav, and you'll see now what it's populated. It's populated V2.
Winch and strap and adapter in position.
Yeah,
Release
alright.
parking brake when ready to start pushback.
Release parking brake. There we go. And hopefully he will do what he's supposed to do. Why are we bouncing? There we go. Are we moving? Oh no, he's lifting us up, that's what. So you'll see it's got a first altitude constraint here, 2,300. Roll FPA, because we haven't got our VNav engaged at the moment. I'll mention that as we get closer to the runway. But what it's now doing is it's got the magenta numbers, which means it's now controlling the numbers. So it's expecting VNav to control the numbers, which is all very well and good. That's what we want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make sure we've got sufficient air for the start. So ECS. Get rid of that. And looking at this, we've got 44 psi and 46 psi on either side. Just need to get the OK that we're going to go.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much. So we've got this up so we can see what happens with the engines. And then it's pretty straightforward. It's FENIK, so it's fully automatic digital engine control, I think it stands for, something like that. But literally it's a couple of buttons and we're away. So let's start number 2 first. Let's turn it to the on position and then start it. Just hold it a couple of seconds. N2's rising immediately. Got oil pressure. Ignition's on, so you've got ignition alpha. And then when it gets up to 25, I think it is. There we go. That's light up and N2. ITT's coming up nicely and smoothly. You can see the little carrots here. I'll just move it on the non-starting engine. So that corresponds to your throttle setting. This is all very well and good. Now you see if I bring this up, what starts to happen is it starts to do automatic stuff where it does things like the cross bleeds automatically and the like. You see, there we go, we've now got pack 1 and pack 2 being fed off engine 2. And then the PSI down here has dropped down to 27. So that's all really good stuff. And you heard the click of it turning itself off. Put the cover back over. Turn it to on. Press and hold a couple of seconds. You can see as I do that the air pressure drops slightly.
Complete. Set parking brake. Disconnecting close. Stand by.
And the sounds are just fantastic. Sounds are absolutely glorious. It does look good, doesn't it? It does look really good. The metallic effect. I must admit, in real life, I've never seen the leading edge slats look quite so shiny. But at the end of the day, that's down to the material in X-Plane. You've got the N1 spinning there. So we've got 2 good starts. The environmental system seems to be good. Let's just check that we've got everything else. Hydraulic system is all powered up apart from the PTUs. Fuel, well we've started the engine so it should be fine. You can see we've still got the APU on. Disconnect, get rid of him. electronics, or electrics I should say. We know all about that being powered. The APU's on and live, but you can see it's gone white, so it's not doing the power, so it's gone to the next level. ECS is important. We'll make sure we're pressurising. We were doing that a moment ago. Anti-ice we're not going to need in this weather, which is absolutely fantastic. So I love this setup.
A bypass pin has been removed.
Yes,
Hand
yes,
signal
yes.
on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Yes, 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 and I'm sure I will. So let me just check my taxi path, which parking stands, and we were going for 2-4, weren't we? So that's out and to the right, and then back down there. So taxiing is straightforward enough. What is the pressure setting here? 1015, isn't it? So that's not right. 1015, here we go. That's obviously hung over from the last flight, which is nice to see. To see you nice, for those who know that reference. And let's just go back up to the top. We don't need the APU anymore, so let's turn that off. Have a quick look down here. They can go back to auto, and that's pretty much us ready to go. We do, however, need the taxi light on, which is one of these. No, well, it's both of those taxi lights. Take the brakes off, and away we go.
Takeoff okay.
Takeoff okay. I think it'll probably be mediocre for me rather than okay. So I'm going to pull onto the active runway, so we'll stick the strobe lights on and the landing lights. Stick those on. Where's the other puppies? Where have they gone? There they are. And I'll probably forget some stuff, but apparently takeoff's okay. So when we take off, what we're going to do is we're going to advance the throttles initially to about 40%, check that they're stabilised and the same. I sound like I've actually read the manual for this thing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Toga on the throttles, and we'll watch what happens with VNav and the engine and the whole takeoff. According to the good books, you shouldn't be setting the autopilot below 400 feet, and then it should go into its acceleration altitude at 1200 feet. So we're expecting it to climb at least V2 to 1200 feet, and then it will hopefully go into an acceleration attitude. There's a really good set of diagrams, there's a really good set of diagrams and descriptions in the the manual about this. A really, really good manual, which is something I do love, is a good manual and some tutorials. And it's got a whole tutorial flight, which is great. I remember Aerosoft and Just Flight did them all back in the day, and Orbex. This is Orbex scenery. This is just no. If you want to lose the illusion, and that's not a Guns N' Roses reference at all. If you want to lose the illusion, then start sticking things in the middle of the runway like that. Oh. Now, I will say I found it really twitchy on the lateral guidance bar on the flight director. But let's get the engines up to 40%. And then let's go. And you see it's gone to takeoff, auto throttle. And V1 rotate come very quickly.
V1 rotate. V2.
Don't go too harshly. We may have had a tail strike there. Let's do a bit of trimming. And you see it's gone to LNAV and takeoff. We're above 400 feet, so I'm going to plug in the autopilot. And we're going to let it work its magic. So what you see is now the engage modes for speed, is controlled with the elevator, so that's speed E. We've reached over 1200 feet, so we're dropping down into an acceleration attitude. We can start to raise the flaps. Now I'll leave this one for 210, but what you'll see is the aircraft limits its speed based on a number of things. So it limits its speed based on altitude constraints and flap settings, and you don't need to do anything other than change the flap setting. In fact, what I will do, whilst I think about it, I'll come down here, click that, open volume mixer, and turn X-Plane down again. Right, that's better. So we can go through this in a little bit better time. As you saw, it basically climbed out, got to 1200 feet, lowered the nose, accelerated, and then went back into a climb attitude, and now it's flying the SID, and it's now changed the speed up to 250 automatically for the speed limit for below 10,000 feet, and we're just away. Now if I bring this over and we can have a look at the restrictions that it's gone through, and we'll just double check that it is what we said. So 1,000 to go. It's going to go to 6,000 and level off. So it met that constraint. We beat 2,300. It met that constraint because that was literally just after takeoff. And now we should be up to 6,250 feet. You can hear the throttles winding back. And that's pretty much it till GOSAM. Now, what we can do... Come on, get over there. Let's bring the this up. In fact, let's get rid of this. Just pop it on the flight plan. Get rid of that. You can see we've also got all the constraints on the old flight plan as well. Look, so the speed's 250. Then we've got the altitudes. So at Mavics, you notice it's gone to flight level 060. What we can do to help it out with that is we come over here, baro set, push for standard, and then it goes to 1013. So we'll just help it out with that and do that. But then after we get to GOSAM, it's going to climb us at 1800 feet a minute rate of climb. I don't want to do that. I want to go early. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it in its control. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm just literally going to set my climb to 390, and then I'm going to go, where's it gone? Flight level change, and go boom. I'm going to go boom. And what you see now is it's magenta flight level change. So all I've done is tell it the mode I want it to fly. Speed's controlled by engines, and then up we go again. And then when we get to the top of climb, it will automatically be able to figure out, hey, I'm at the top of climb, so this is really good. If we come down here, we can look at the vertical flight path. Get rid of that, we don't need that. Vertical flight path, we'll just scoot it out a little bit. I love these displays with the fact that you can vary it so much. And you'll see that actually what we've done is we have cut all of this out, and what we will do is continue that climb. Now if you look at it, just bring this out of the way a little bit, you'll see our rate of climb is rather excessive. So what we can do is come up here, and assuming I've got this right and it's working, where's it gone? We're going to go flight path angle. It will set the flight path angle to whatever we've got, and then we can set the flight path angle to a slightly lower angle of attack. And what we can do there is just wind that down. No, that's the altitude. That's not what we want. Where's my flight path? There we go. And you see the little caret is moving there. We'll still maintain 250 because we're still below 10,000 feet. In fact, it's started to climb, hasn't it? Because we're below 10,000 feet. And you see the speed is now climbing slowly. But that's giving us a 2,500 feet a minute rate of climb, which is still higher than this. And you'll see what happens is this blue line is the preset altitude here. So it's all color coded. Look, so that's 390. That's our blue line. That's our green line because we're on the flight path vertical mode, and the white line is what was planned, but obviously it's white because we're not doing it anymore. And we can leave it in the climb for that, absolutely fine. But that's shown, if you like, 3 modes. The original sort of following the VNav. We've also then gone into doing it as a flight level change, and now we've gone into the I keep getting this wrong, flight path angle, so that we can just reduce the climb, make it a little bit more comfortable. And there we go. So that is our departure. It's following the SID nicely. If I bring this back over, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it get to top of climb, and then we'll see what it does in terms of handling top of climb. Once we've done that, we will have a look at what happens with the descent. But this is going to be about an hour for me now. So what I'll do is I will see you at top of climb. So we're closing on top of climb, and one of the things I was going to mention is the limitations within the nav system. So I've just been looking through the manual just to double check I'm not missing anything. But so for example, for a direct intercept, what we should be able to do is let me just check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we should be able to check, for example, DCS. We should be able to pick that up, and then from there it should come up with a list of options down here instead of the speeds. So it should come up with mod flight plan and then a list of speeds down here, but a list of choices down here, I think, unless I'm getting it woefully wrong. But there should be 3 prompts. There should be not sure what they are. Speed climb. There should be a beam points, intercept course, and something else. But you can choose them with the buttons down here. Almost this becomes an almost separate menu for the last couple of buttons. You choose that, and then you're able to choose what you want. But obviously we don't get that now. So you should be able to highlight your waypoint. And as soon as you do, it should come up with the choices down here in terms of what you can do. So obviously as a result of that, it's somewhat limited. We can't do a beam points, we can't do intercept courses, and I suspect as a result of that, that's why we can't do holds. So yeah, it is limited. If you're on VATSIM, that's a little bit awkward. If they ask you to go off track, you can't do that, unfortunately. So if you're on VATVIN or VATSIM or IVAO, then that's a limitation of the system. However, having said that, it is what it is. So as we get into the top of climb, I'll just bring this up. You can see that this is our original planned track, and you can see that top of climb's here, and you can see it's not changed it at all. So it's not dynamic. That's our plan. We're actually going to get ahead of it, and what we can do is as well, I'll mention this as well. It's an aircraft thing. It's nothing to do with the sim. But if you're in magenta for your LNAV and VNav, then it will automatically switch from NOTS to MAC. It won't do that if you're doing everything manually. You'll have to manually change that. But we're getting close to the top of climb. We've got 2,000 to go. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, and we'll see what it does. But I have to say that in terms of the VNav, it seems to be doing a pretty sound effort with it. I've got a really cluttered screen here. Really cluttered, so no, it's not that one, is it? It's that one, and then press it again, it comes up with the options. I don't want the airports on, and I don't want the nav aids on at the minute, but I do want the waypoint information. There we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? It's a bit clearer. But you see, we're going to reach top of climb well in advance of the top of climb point here. We were just looking to see what it does in terms of its behaviour. 1,000 to go, that's good. That's good, and 390 is flashing. And we'd expect it as it gets within a couple of 100 feet to start lowering the nose and starting to behave itself, which you'll see on the VSI. As soon as the VSI starts to reduce, we know it's doing what it should be doing. Now obviously with it climbing at a Mach, when you're climbing the Mach number will remain steady, but the actual airspeed will drop off. And if you want to change this number, you go into the MAG, and you can see highlighted speeds flashing because it's going to change to speed control by throttle in terms of rather than elevator, and Alt has gone green for Alt capture, which is all very nice. And we're speeding up again, so it will capture and hold this speed, but I wonder if we can do decimal 8 just to make the flight a bit better for me. So if we come into perf, cruise, decimal 80, stick it in there. Is it going to let me put it in there? No. I need the perf, takeoff, climb, cruise, perf in it. That's what I'm after. Next page. Next page. And I need the slash 0.8. Oh, I've done it already. Pay attention, Ricardo. That's probably what I missed out actually, was the slash 0.80. We'll just bump that up a bit. No, that's not right. 0.80. There we go. That was me putting the wrong entry in, and I'm surprised it accepted it actually. Surprised that accepted it. But there we go. It's just going to give me shorter time in the cruise until I get to the other end. But that's one of the ways of adjusting the speed here. So as I understand it, that's the preferable way when you're in magenta. So I'm going to go away and try and sort the frog in my throat, and I will see you at the top of descent. Okay, so as you rejoin me, you can see we're getting frogs know better. You can see we're getting to top of descent. As I say, this is the predicted descent path. I've lowered the range just so that we can see the top of descent, and what we're looking for, in fact, we've overshot it, have we? Yeah, I don't know why it's done that. Oh, yes I do. You're a buffoon. You're a buffoon. You need to drop your altitude, otherwise it's not going to go down. Are we going down now? Yeah, we're going down. Whew. It should do it automatically, but what you need to do is give it the permission of the altitude to go down too. So, but looking at the flight path, we're already going to recapture our planned flight path already. We've literally dropped like a stone. I'm surprised we're not peeling people off the ceiling, off the cabin roof. But there you go. You can see we've now regained it. So we should have our indication here as being on path, which we are. So what we're going to do now is have a look at the actual descent, and we're going to have a conversation about steep approach. I'll be honest, I don't really know that much about steep approach, but what I will do is just call over this. Where's it gone? But it's in their really good manual, so I really should be paying more attention to it. But it should be relatively straightforward, says he. So, boom, here we go. So the initial part of our approach, our descent is down here. We're going to come all the way around to Jacko. We're going to monitor whether it adheres to these flight constraints. I've put it all the way down to 2,000 feet because I want to see if it's just going to stuff us into the ground. But we're now coming down here. We're looking for the first constraint to be flight level 220, and then down to 90, flight level 90. And throughout it, we've got speed constraints. So Jacko, it should be coming down to 110. Now it's the same as takeoff. Your descent, your speed is dictated by the limitation of the flap. So if you set flap 1, it goes to 210. If you go flap 2, I think it goes to 190, or whatever it says on your flap schedule for your aircraft. So let me just where we go, get this back up. So when you go to your performance page, yeah, it's asked me to reset alt select, which I didn't do. I wasn't paying attention. When you go to your performance page, I think it is descent, arrival, no, perf, approach speed, is it in here? Yeah, so you can see the speeds it's got set here for your clean configuration. Flap 1, as soon as you put flap 1, it will reduce your speed to 180, flap 2 160, flap 3 and so on and so forth. So this is really quite useful. You can either use the fixed speeds, or you can go to green dot where you can muck around with it, and in terms of those speeds you get to it through the data page where you can change it. So a really flexible system. I will highlight this, it's part of the approach where it kind of levels off for a bit, so we can see whether it does its level off before it then goes back into its descent, so we can watch its behaviour there. But I've not had any issues with it thus far, as long as you are in the right mode. But you can see it's now got flight level 220, and we need to be at 220, not above, not below. What we can do in the descent is we can start to put our arrival information in. If you remember, we'd got it set to ICAO, so we will do exactly that. So landing performance, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go on to my expected weight, and I'm just going to use that because I'm cheating. So if I pull my sim brief up, my expected weight, my estimated weight when I got there would be, you shouldn't really do this, you need to put in your actual weight that you believe you're going to have. So estimated landing weight 39398. Yeah, that seems to make sense. So get that out of the way, 39398. And then it's going to be a flap full because we're doing a steep approach. Condition 09 dry, it's correct. The wind is nothing, which actually is worse for London City. If you get some headwind, it shortens your landing roll. Your landing distance, I should say. Temperature's 15 and the QNH 1013. Enter, calculate. No icing expected. Full reverse available to us, although we might actually not need it. But we'll see how we get on. Conditions dry, compute. There's no auto land at London City. You can see it's expecting us to use 1173 metres out of the 1400, so we haven't got a lot of flexibility there, even though we're on full flap and we've got reverse, and yeah, it's go around is flap 4 and the VREF is pretty low. The approach is pretty low. But one of the things you have is you have a much higher decision height or a decision altitude in terms of going around, and that's because you've got so much more velocity and weight, because you're drilling down towards the airfield at 4.5 degrees or 5.5 degrees. I can't quite remember what it is for London City, but it's certainly much more than 3 degrees. It also gives you quite a weird visual perspective, because it looks like you're really high, which compared to a normal approach you basically are. But what we can do then is send that to the FMS, and then if we come back down to our FMS, let's ping that out, go to our downloads, ping that there, landing V-speeds loaded, which is all very exciting. And you can see it's gone into a descent at 280 knots instead of the 290 we were at. So yeah, that's all very good. So how are we doing on the flight plan? This is all very exciting. In terms of the profile, I'll just discuss the profile in terms of what's available. So this is as long as you are in the magentas. So as long as you are in your VPAF mode, and the following apply. When you're 30 miles out from destination, that's the first point where you can then set it for activating the approach speeds on the FMS, and you can do it either on the FMS or just setting flap 1. Awesome. Don't need to activate it immediately, however. You can do it at the next point, which is about 20 miles from the destination. It asks you to activate the approach speeds on the flight plan page, which will drop you down immediately to 210 knots if you're not already at 210. By then we'll probably be down at 185, so it's not a massive issue for us. 13 miles you set flap 1, that takes you down to 180 knots. 10 miles set flap 2, takes you down to 160. 8 gear down flap 3, takes you down to 150. Then 5 miles, and we'll try and stick to this. 5 miles we then set at landing flaps, and at that point, at 8 miles out, I think we'll be probably too far for this. How far out are we going? How far out are we going? Yeah, we only start descent at 3.4, so yeah, at 5 miles we'll pretty much set everything, and then we'll put it into our steep approach at about 4 miles and see how we get on. So it's just having a faff around with the altitude. It's capturing 9,000, or flight level 90 I should say, which is exactly what we wanted. So in terms of needles as well, it auto swaps the needles. So magenta, we're flying our flight plan, but it will automatically swap over to the localizer when we get there, and that is the blue needle. And you can see it's coming around here and it's intercepting the track. It's doing it really, really well. I'm really impressed with how well it intercepts tracks and flies tracks. And you can see it's now got the top of descent marker for this segment. And what it's doing is it's passed the waypoint at flight level 90, and it's figured out the rate of descent and top of descent it needs to achieve to get down to 6,000 feet. And we can monitor it as we go. Need to get up my charts on the other page. As I say, I'm waiting for the next bit to pop up here. It pops up with the "Do you want to start your approach?" basically. Yeah. So the thing here is that from 30 miles to the departure, from 30 miles to the destination. The approach speed can be activated on the FMS, and it will pop up with a message here saying it can be activated, or you can set flap 1, and then flap 1 will automatically take you down to 180 knots. But what they sort of recommend is that at 20 miles you activate the approach on the flight plan page. So we are on the flight plan page, and then 13 miles put your flaps 1, 10 miles flaps 2. 8 miles gear down flaps 3, which will be down to 150, and then we'll see how we get on from there, because we're going to be quite close in. The last one, it says, is 5 nautical miles set landing flaps, usually flap 5, and then land. Easier said than done. The only thing we're going to have to do is set full flap and set steep approach, and see how we get on with that. To altitude, top of descent altitude, which doesn't really affect us that much. 30 miles, should be less than 30 miles. We should ping up with something here. It doesn't appear to be doing it. This is going to be fun. Let's just get ready for picking approach out of this lot. Then we've got top of descent down to 2,000, then we maintain 2,000. We're at 20 miles, so it's slightly early, but we are flaps 1, which we normally would have had at 13 miles. Top of descent coming. I love the fact that this sorts itself out, changes its range scales and everything. It's brilliant. Can I reduce the range on this anymore? Yep, I'll have that. Monitoring the descent, looking for 2,000. Looking for 8 miles as well. 10 miles, sorry, to go to flap 2 at 10. And I think it's going to happen quite quickly as we come around this corner. So I might take everything a couple of miles sooner, just to give myself that time and that space. Should be levelling off at 2000, shouldn't be going any lower than that. Yep, that's good. I'm going to take flap 2 slightly early. That'll wash off some speed for this turn here. I'm going to flap 3. Gear down. As we're coming around the corner, we'll also select approach. Localizer and glide slope armed. 2,000 feet down to 150 knots. And then once we're lined up, we'll select everything that we need to select. See how it handles this. It's quite a tight turn onto this final, so it could be quite sporty. But we'll see how it copes. That's all we can do. And get ready to take over if we have any issues. That's coming down to flap 5 now. I've noticed the speed is washing away really quickly. Where's our steep approach button? Right, let's see how this performs, because the other day it was not great. Turning on to final, speed's okay. Looking for our descent at final fix. It's doing better than it did the other day. The autopilot dropped out at this point. Approach 2, so let's get rid of this. Get this up so we can monitor what's going on. And maybe, just maybe, raise our view up. And we need glide slope capture. Waiting for the glide slope to come down. And what do we get out of this? Oh, yes. Happy days. Now if I quickly pop outside, what you'll see is it's part deployed the spoilers to increase the drag. It's got everything hanging out. Part deployed the spoilers. Look at the flap angle. This thing is slowing itself down as best it can. Looking for 2 reds, 2 whites, which we've got at the minute. What I'm going to do is just reset the altitude, because we may need to go around, but hopefully we won't. That's our go around altitude. Climb to 3,000 feet straight ahead. Look at that angle. Right, going to dispose of that. Look at that angle. Should we take it manually, see how we get on?
Throttle.
Got 3 reds. That's. I'm not going to worry about that at the minute. Watching speed.
500.
Don't drift off the centre line.
Slope.
Low on the glide slope, but I'm comfortable with that because we're in a sim.
Approaching minimum.
Glide slope. Glide slope.
Minimum. 2
Glide
minimum.
slope. Glide slope. Glide slope.
100.
Need to round out
50,
slightly early.
40. 30. 20.
Slightly off
10.
centre line. I'll accept that. Yeah, I'll accept that. I'll take that any day of the week. Right, so let's have a little bit of a sum up then. Not going to bother going to parking, but we will do this. It's probably the most incorrect approach that you'll ever see into let's pause that, get rid of the noise. So there we have it. Yeah, really enjoyable aircraft, really enjoyable, good fun. There's a lot to it in terms of its VNav capabilities. But let's go through it. The external modelling is very, very nice. Unlike a lot of other sim aircraft, it hasn't got a lot of the ground stuff around it. For me, it's not a biggie, but I know in terms of immersion, it's not great for some. That's one element of it. Interior modelling, all bar a couple of bits, really nice. Texturing's lovely. The systems, what's implemented is really good. It's a shame that they don't have things like the ability to do step aside and holds. I'm sure that will come at some point. But fundamentally, that means if you're flying on VATSIM, you may need to learn how to do a hold manually rather than just relying on the FMC. But other than that, I think, you know, for me, it's very good. It's not fully implemented with all the systems. You can see that in the cockpit where you click certain things, there's just nothing there. But the core systems are there. Flies really nicely. The getting used to the VNav is interesting because you can have VNav controlled by the aircraft and you can have VNav flown by yourself, and you need to just manage those modes and think through what's going on. Supporting documentation and supporting videos are really, really good, and so overall I think it's a really good aircraft. Do I think it's worth the money? That's a question that only you can answer. Now, the interesting thing with this, I'm going to have a look at the Flight Sim Studio version of this. The reason being is that the Flight Sim Studio version is basically the same thing taken over to Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I will have a look at that in another video. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to tick like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.